Well, welcome our dear audience. And today we have a very special guest. Is actually a dear friend, this daughter of a dear friend of mine from many, many years from Venezuela. And her name is Isabel Rios Pulgar, and she's in Baltimore, and she's attending Johns Hopkins University. So welcome, Isabel, to Appetizers for Success.
Hello, thank you for having me.
And today, Isabel is going to help us with a wonderful topic dear to my heart, which I wish to call today resilience or self-management. So it's all about, how do we handle difficult moments of our lives, difficult either crises, God knows that we have them here in Florida with the hurricanes, and we kind of prepare for them. But yet, sometimes things happen to us without us knowing, and how do we react to that? So I think Isabel brings us a wonderful life experience that she wants to share with us today. So thank you, Isabel, for sharing your story.
No
So
problem.
Isabel, can you tell us a little bit about, what happened, recently in your life in terms of your, going to school and your adaptation? And I know there's an episode that happened to you, but I'd rather have you describe that to our audience, right, than me trying to represent it.
Okay.
Can you tell us about that?
Mhm. So last year, actually like a year ago, a little bit over a year ago today, um, I was going into my junior year of college at Hopkins. And unfortunately, I started feeling like really feverish. Started having like night chills. So I would start shaking in the middle of the night. The fevers would go to like 104. And it was really ruthless. Like it was a consistent fever that happened every day. And I ended up going to multiple emergency care units. I ended up going to the Johns Hopkins Hospital. I ended up going to a hospital in Miami. And that whole process took like about 5 months to be able to diagnose me, to find out what was wrong with me. Some of the doctors thought it was lymphoma. Um, Other doctors, they just thought that there was something going on with my lungs because, everything. At the end of the day, what I ended up having was lupus nephritis, which is an autoimmune disease that affects the whole body. So that explains why it affected my lungs. It also affected my kidneys. And I ended up being also diagnosed with something called chronic kidney disease. So that just sort of means that there was a deterioration in my kidney tissue, and it affects how the kidney functions, how it sort of produces waste in the body so that you can get rid of it. But yeah, so all of that happened in a span of like 5 months, and I was still going to school, um, going to my job after school, doing research in a lab that I work at school. And I think it was very difficult because it was not only like a an obstacle for me sort of physically, but also mentally in terms of like being able to um, not have it, try to not have it affect me, but it still produced a lot of stress in my life. It produced a lot of insecurity in my life, and it still does to this day. Um, so even though I got my diagnosis in December, so this all started in August and it ended in December when I got my diagnosis for lupus, I still like see a doctor every month. I've had to change like the way I take care of myself and things like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, what a story, what a moment, going through college, adapting to that, being away from family and probably closest friends and having to build a network of people that will carry over. Sounds God, you're at Johns Hopkins, is one of the best institutes, medical institutes in the world. But what have you learned from it? What are some of the adaptations that you had to make in your lifestyle, Isabel, as a result of your condition?
I think uh, I had always had like this motivation or this push to always be the best in like all the things that I did, and I had like it was like more than just like a slight motivation or push. It was like it was becoming stressful, the amount of pressure I was putting on myself. Um, I was stressed because like I wanted to prove something with myself. Um, and so that kind of went over. That started in high school and then all went over into college. And I think that now I've kind of realized that like it's okay to rest, and it's okay to ask for help and to kind of reach out to others when you're in need. Because before I would, if I needed help or anything like that, I would be like, no, like I can figure it out on my own. Um, so it's nice to be able to take a step back, look at my priorities, like what do I want to achieve with every task, everything that I sign up with has a purpose. So um, that's the biggest sort of change that I've had to or learn, like thing that I've learned so far with my lupus. Yeah.
Great. It's great, for a very young woman like you to go through something like this and learning to ask for help. I think that's something that a lot of people don't do. I think that's a secret for success. Talking about appetizer for success, I think that's one of them. And even though you might be independent and you can think you can carry on by yourself, sometimes you can't. And this is a particular situation that you realize you cannot carry this alone. You need help. There are moments in which you're gonna feel, a certain way, and you need to recognize and be compassionate about yourself because your body just doesn't cope with all the stress and everything else that comes along with going to school and working and everybody else. So yeah, I mean, thank you for reminding us all of taking that pause in life and realizing what we can do, just being independent. But yes, sometimes asking for that help that is so needed in so many areas of our lives.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend to others who might be listening to us and seeing us and experience similar situation? Is there a quote or a motto or a reflection that you would like to leave to all of us to inspire us?
I think I would say to take it day by day. That's something that I do. I think that even though I went through this whole process, that still there are, I still keep in mind that there are people with more severe diagnoses, that they're still, going through a lot of more complicated things. Like I get to go to school, there's some people with chronic illness who don't have that privilege. So I think um, if there's anyone going through something similar, or even if you're just going through a stressful situation, it's just to, like, take it day by day, um, and to make sure that you have time in your schedule for yourself. That's something that I'm prioritizing right now with the start of classes, just to make sure that, like, no matter all the things that I'm doing, is there still like a spot in the day where I can just like unplug, step back from like my laptop and just, stare at the ceiling, or do whatever. Um, so I think that's the most important thing, to just take it day by day, um, and always believe that it'll work out. Regardless of whether you believe in God or if you don't, like if you believe in like the universe or something. I think you should just believe that it'll all work out. That it doesn't. You just put in your best effort, and that's all you can do. Just be satisfied with that. So that's what I would say.
Oh, wonderful. What a wonderful experience in the middle of not being wonderful going through it, but pulling through it, right? And you're
Yeah.
right. There's a lot of people I was watching the other day, and if you haven't watched it, Isabel and our audience, I think it's a wonderful, also inspirational movie. There's many out there, but it's in Spanish. It's called 100 Meters, and you can watch it on Netflix. And it's about this man who was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in a very young age, at 35 years old, and how he carried through and did triathlons and marathons even after the diagnosis. And he will have the relapses, but he will still carry on. So sometimes, and I truly think that the mind help us, the body, parts of the bodies might not react accordingly, but the mind is so powerful. And like you say, faith and what all the resources that are emotionally that can complement and not just focus on the disease or the pain, but also focus on what's next. What can I do next? What is possible for me here? What are the things that instead of dwelling on what is happening to us, I mean, imagine right now with a lot of people that had a dear friend recently that died of COVID, and it is very
Mhm.
painful for all of us, and especially for his family, but also for friends. And then, the lesson is, how can we prevent it instead of just saying, well, obviously we're very sorry and for what happened and our sorrow, our mourning and everything else, but what else can we do you know, the ones that were still alive, like you, Isabel, that you have a whole life in front of you, and don't let this stop you. You know, how can I cope with this? Realizing and acknowledging that you have to go through it. But on top of that, then you make the decision, hey, I'm here in Baltimore, I'm still at school, I'm not gonna quit, you know, I'm a warrior, and you know, you are just gonna move on, you know, with your life. And I think if we all have, you know, a tiny bit of your immense resolution to go through life and live with it, and not just say, you know, I'm a victim of, is just wonderful. It's wonderful. And there are resources out there to help us. And you, with your life lesson, Isabel, I'm sure that you can help a lot of people around you, where your disease or not. And just give them the inspiration and the stamina for them to continue.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, for having me here.
And I know you wrote a newsletter recently. Where was that published?
Yeah, it's on the JHU newsletter. So it's jhunewsletter.com, I think. Something like that.
Excellent, excellent. Well, your family is certainly very proud of you, and as an extended family, because in the Latin American families, we're all tios and tias, as say aunts and uncles. So, from my heart, like a simulated tia for you, I wish you the very best. Thank you so much for your kindness and your time today, and I hope our audience gets inspired by your story, like I am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome.